El Nino and its effect on India. El Nino is the result of intense interactions between the ocean and atmosphere in the tropical Pacific Ocean. It is part of a natural combined oceanic atmospheric cycle referred to as El Nino Southern Oscillation, that is ENSO. El Nino is one extreme, that is the warm phase. La Nina is the other extreme, that is the cold phase. Normal patterns in the Pacific is supposed to have the following. 1. In normal years when there is no El Nino or La Nina, atmospheric pressure is greater in the eastern Pacific than in the western Pacific. Because wind flows from higher to lower pressure, the trade winds blow from the east to the west. 2. Warm water piles up in the western Pacific and sea level is higher by approximately 30 centimeters than it is in the east. 3. Upwelling of cold, nutrient-rich water occurs along the western coast of South America. 4. In some years, this pattern intensifies so that sea surface temperatures are colder than usual in the central and western Pacific. This condition is referred to as La Nina and is similar to normal patterns except that circulation is increased and convection is enhanced over Indonesia. Then there is Southern Oscillation pattern, which is characterized by an irregular seesaw in which atmospheric pressure and wind patterns shift across the Pacific. When normally high pressure in the eastern Pacific decreases and normally low pressure over Australia and northern Indonesia rises, conditions are right for an El Nino event to develop. As warm water shifts eastward, so do the convection and heavy rains caused by the increased buoyancy of air warmed by the underlying water. As warm water piles up in the east, upwelling of cold, nutrient-rich water is inhibited. Latent heat of condensation further warms the air, which further decreases atmospheric pressure in the east. The thunderstorms that have shifted from the western to the central and eastern Pacific disrupt high-level jet stream circulation by pumping warm air and moisture high into the atmosphere. This has a far-reaching effect on weather patterns. So what are the hazards or impacts of El Nino? Although El Nino and La Nina is generated in the tropical Pacific, their effects are felt all over the world. The process by which Earth system events in one location are related to events in a different part of the world is called teleconnections. Because each El Nino event is different, their effects vary. At temperature latitudes, the effects show up most clearly during the winter. General impacts are heavy rains on islands of Pacific and the west coast of South America, drought in Australia, Indonesia, and the Philippines, warmer than normal winters in northern US and Canada, drought in Africa and India, weakening of Atlantic hurricanes, and lastly, greater precipitation in southwest United States. During the El Nino year, the warm water replaces cold currents in the eastern Pacific, that is, Chile and the Peru coasts. This creates a low pressure zone in that region and a relatively high pressure condition in the Indian Ocean region. This high pressure condition in the Indian Ocean can be harmful to the monsoons. So what are the effects of El Nino on the biosphere? Diminished upwelling of cold, nutrient-rich water upon which phytoplankton depend. This affects the fish and birds too. Coral bleaching. And lastly, human health through famine, water pollution, diseases such as malaria, dengue fever, and cholera. Changes to the atmosphere and ocean circulation during El Nino events include warmer than normal ocean temperatures across the central and eastern tropical Pacific Ocean, increased convection or cloudiness in the central tropical Pacific Ocean, weaker than normal easterly trade winds. This may cause droughts in India. This issue is widely being debated by meteorologists in India, especially these days in view of scant rainfall in this monsoon period.